Al-Basra Oil Terminal, commonly referred to as ABOT, is a strategically critical Iraqi offshore, deep-sea crude oil marine loading terminal that lies approximately 50 kilometers southeast of the Al-Faw Peninsula in the Persian Gulf, along with its sister terminal, the KAAOT Amīyah Oil Terminal. The terminals provide the principal point of export for more than 80% of Iraq's gross domestic product as of 2009, and all of the oil from the southern Basra refinery. Crude oil produced for export from the southern Iraqi oil fields is carried through 348 in diameter pipelines to the southern tip of the Al-Faw Peninsula and then undersea to the ABOT platform. 148 in and 232 in pipelines supply the KAAOT platform. The ABOT facilities can transfer up to 3 million barrels of oil per day when all four of its supertanker berths operate at maximum capacity and has a maximum draft of 21 meters. 3 single-point mooring systems were added in 2012, each with a design rating of 800,000 barrels of oil per day, and 2 more SPMs are planned to be operational by 2013 to increase total loading capacity to 6.4 to 6.6 MBBL of oil per day. The KAAOT facility has a shallower depth and its 2 berths can accommodate Suezmax oil tankers with capacities up to 1 MBBL at 200,000 DWT and has the capacity to transfer about 240 kbbl of oil daily. History: ABOT was originally named Amīyah Al-Basra Oil Terminal and was designed and commissioned into service by Brown & Root in 1974 with a design lifetime, with proper maintenance, of 20 years. In 2003, the current name ABOT was adopted. The facility was constructed with 4 berths capable of handling very large crude carrier-type vessels and offloading 300 to 400 kbbl per day through each of the berths. The ABOT suffered significant damage during the 1980 to 1988 Iran-Iraq War, however, it remained in service until 1989, when Brown & Root attempted to refurbish it after the conclusion of that war. Work was stopped when Iraq invaded Kuwait in 1990 and the facility was inflicted with further damage during the ensuing Gulf War. In addition, the platform was operated under the Oil for Food program for several years thereafter with minimal maintenance. The KAAOT Amīyah Oil Terminal was built in 1958 and had fallen into extreme disrepair and would require wholesale reconstruction to restore full capabilities as of 2007. The shallow draft of its location, however, makes a reconstruction effort of questionable economic value. Refurbishment under coalition forces. In 2004, the ABOT platform was refurbished and upgraded under contract W9126GO for D002, an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, cost plus award fee with an estimated not to exceed value of $800 million. The contract was between the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers of Fort Worth, Texas and Parsons Iraqi joint venture, Houston, Texas. ABOT's capacity was more than doubled to offload up to 3 MBBL of oil per day. Practical constraints in the upstream refinery and oil fields limit actual delivery below the designed maximum. Despite the work conducted, the dilapidated and fragile nature of the terminal was featured in an NPR story on June 20, 2009 and again on October 4, 2010. Engineers interviewed said that they didn't even know just how bad the condition of the pipeline is. They didn't dare run it at full pressure for fear it would burst. and they didn't dare shut down the flow to fix it for fear that the weight of the ocean would implode it. The most recent capacity tests were conducted nearly 2 decades earlier in 1991. The Iraqi Ministry of Oil Master Plan 2007 included the Iraq crude oil export expansion project to expand the South Oil Company's export capacity from 1.75 mbbl of oil per day to 4.5 mbbl of oil per day by 2014. On July 13, 2010, Foster Wheeler AG was awarded the front-end engineering and AMP management contract for Phase 1 of the ICOEEP. Leighton Offshore was then awarded a $733 million EPC contract with work commencing in November 2010 for delivery in March 2012 for a scope of work to include installation of 2 parallel 48-in outside diameter pipelines running 10 kilometers onshore through an onshore crossing, and then 40 kilometers offshore to link with new single-point mooring systems. A third onshore crossing for future expansion, installation of 3 SPMs with nameplate ratings of 900 kbbl per day along with manifolds and subsea pipelines capable of servicing VLCCs, 2, operational and 1 spare. Fabrication and installation of a 600 metric ton subsea valve manifold, dredging to bury the pipelines and to provide adequate depth for VLCCs, construction of onshore metering and manifold facilities at the Faw storage facility. The first oil-ready for startup milestone was celebrated on February 12, 2012 with Iraq Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki in attendance. The milestone marked the addition of 800 kbbl barrels per day of export capacity via 130 kilometers of onshore pipelines from the Al-Zubair pumping station to the Faw storage facility, where 8 new crude oil storage tanks, each with a capacity of 350 kbbl, were brought online with another 8 tanks close to operational. These 16 storage tanks represent 25% of the 64 tanks planned for in the ICOEEP. The crude oil then flows offshore through the new twin 48 inches pipelines to the new 600 MT subsea valve manifold for distribution to 2 single-point mooring systems. Phase 1 completion will increase overall exports by 1.8 MMBOPD when both SPMs and all 16 storage tanks are operational. In November 2012, Leighton Offshore transferred operations of the completed ICOEEP installations. On March 7, 2012, the first tanker was berthed and loaded from one of the 900,000 barrels of oil per day SPMs installed during Phase 1 of the ICOEEP. The second phase of the ICOEEP added a central metering and management platform, brought 3 SPMs online, and installed a 4th SPM. The scope of work included central metering and manifold platform, a 3.5 kilometers, 48 in diameter pipeline near shore, 1 additional single-point mooring system, conversion of an existing spare SPM buoy to operational status, replacement of the spare SPM buoy, installation of a pig launcher. The EPC contract for Phase 2's central metering and manifold platform was awarded to Italy's Saipem in October 2011, with delivery expected in the fourth quarter of 2013. Other Phase 2 facilities include connecting the ABOT platform to the new pipelines via the CMMP Iraq Crude Oil Export Facility Reconstruction Project, aka JICAC Line Project. The Iraq Crude Oil Export Facility Reconstruction Project was funded by the Japan International Cooperation Agency and includes work to add a third, 48 in diameter pipeline running from shore to the ABOT valve station. New pipelines will also be run from the ABOT valve station to the KAAOT valve station to supply a 5th SPM and the KAAOT loading facilities. In October 2011, the South Oil Company awarded 2 contracts worth $518 million and $79.85 million to Leighton Offshore for delivery in January 2013, with the scope of work running in parallel with Phase 1 that includes a third 75 kilometers, 48 in diameter pipeline connecting onshore facilities to the offshore valve stations, 2 offshore valve station platforms, 1 at ABOT and a second at KAAOT, 1 additional single-point mooring system. Strategic role. ABOT and KAAOT are major players in Iraq's eventual economic stability and therefore are considered one of the top terrorist targets in the world. Due to the strategic importance, the terminals maintain strict security and are guarded by both the Iraqi Navy and Marines and U.S. forces, including personnel from the U.S. Navy's Maritime Expeditionary Security Force, which falls under the Naval Expeditionary Combat Command. While under U.S. control, the U.S. units enforcing the 3 km warning and 2 km exclusion zones around ABOT and KAAOT, including maritime interdiction operations, were conducted primarily by Patrol Forces Southwest Asia, a component of the U.S. Coast Guard, comprising island-class cutters and U.S. Navy patrol craft. Coastal MESD 823 as of 2009 served on board ABOT to provide security and security training to Iraqi sailors and Marines. On April 30, 2009, the Iraqi Navy assumed control of the Khawr Amīyah Oil Terminal, and on July 26, 2011 they assumed control of ABOT as well.